What is going on, guys? Hope you're having a great day today. In today's video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I thought I'd give you guys some insight into how I edit my photos. So I edit all my photos on Adobe Lightroom, so I would highly suggest if you are serious about photography, sorry about that. I would highly suggest if you are serious about photography and want to take your photos to the next level to get Adobe Lightroom. I have the Creative Cloud subscription. Definitely worth the investment if you are serious about filmmaking and photography, because I find that it's really easy to work with. There's heaps of information online and tutorials on how to use Adobe Lightroom, Photoshop, Premiere Pro. Yeah, so this was a photo that Nishant took. So Nishant took pretty much all these photos on his Canon 70D and he used a 50mm 1.8 lens. Remember, it's not always about the camera that you're using. Focus more on taking photos and then learning how to make your photos stand out when you edit them. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to have an expensive camera, an expensive lens. It's crazy what you can actually do to a photo once you learn how to edit them. So let's have a look at this photo. So this is obviously underexposed. So what I'll do is I will increase the exposure just a little bit just to see what I'm working with, and then I'll come back and fix that up later if I need to. Play around with the white balance or the temperature of the photo. So I like a bit of blue in my images most of the time. Sometimes I will make them warmer, but for this photo particularly I will be making it a bit more blue, and then I will reduce the highlights and bring up the shadows for any of my night photos, and it just lets you see what you're working with a bit more. And then what I'll do is I'll play around with the white. So if you hold Alt on a Windows computer or Option on a Mac computer, you can see where your whites start to pinch. So just about there, you're bringing some whites back into the photo, so I'll leave it there. And then same with your blacks. You can see where the blacks start to come into the photo. Right about there might be alright. Yep. And then I'll bring a bit of clarity into my photo. I like a bit of clarity into my photo because I guess that I shoot a lot of urban and street photography, and I like playing around with lights, and I do a lot of night photography. So usually I will have a bit of clarity in my photos. I'll play around with the texture a little bit, not too much, but just to make it, I guess, pop a little bit more. Then I'll come down to the tone curve. I don't really know too much about the exact meaning of a tone curve and what it actually does, but I played around with it and kind of found my own editing style with the tone curve. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube where you can actually learn about the tone curve and get more into the specifics of the tone curve and how it works. But for me, for an image like this, what I'll usually do is I will start pinching the contrast. So I'll usually start at the bottom, and if you bring it up a little bit, you will be able to fade the image, whereas if you bring it down, it's going to punch in the contrast a bit more. So I usually bring it up a little bit like there, and then I like to just play around with it and see what kind of suits the image, I guess. The thing is, there's no right or wrong way to edit a photo. You're going to be editing your photos based on your Instagram feed, maybe the theme that you're following or the style that you have. Editing photos is based on your own creative style. So just because I'm editing a photo a certain way doesn't mean you will be editing the photo the same way. I'm just kind of showing you how I use the tools that are provided by Lightroom. And if you just play around with these and keep taking photos over time, you will find your own style, I guess. You'll understand a bit more about how you like to edit. I'm gonna drop the dark points here a little bit. So this is where I like to have fun with my photos, so the colors. So obviously we had orange flare and a blue mask. So those are two predominant colors in the image. So what I'll do is maybe I'll start with the flare. So I'll go to saturation. I want the orange to pop a bit more. So look at the difference that makes in the image already. So I'm gonna get the orange to pop, and then I want the blue to pop, the mask to pop a bit more. So saturation is pretty much the intensity of the color. So you can come around here and play around with that. And then luminance is how exposed your color is. In this case, it looks fine to me. See, for example, if I bring up the blue, you see how it really lights up. It's bringing more exposure into the mask. Bring it up a little bit, maybe with the orange, I guess maybe just a tiny bit, I'll bring up the luminance. And then you can come over here and play around with, so here's pretty much how that color is going to appear to you. So for example, if you see when I play around the orange, I can literally change the orange to red or pink or yellow. So for this image, I might go with a slightly red smoke. Yeah, I think that looks awesome. And then with the blues, I might reduce it a bit, give it a bit more of a, I don't know what kind of blue that is, but I like that about -10-ish blue on Lightroom. I think that looks awesome. But yeah, I think that photo is already looking so much better. Like if you look at the before and after, it's crazy, right? I don't really mess around too much with split toning. Detail, so detail, okay. You wanna see how much noise you have in your image. So if I zoom in, there's a little bit of noise, not too much. If you're taking night photos, if your camera performs well in low light, it might have less noise, whereas other cameras or other scenarios, you might have more noise. So over here, what you wanna do is, if you feel like there is a bit too much noise, you can reduce your sharpening a little bit, bring up your noise reduction, reduce your detail. It just gives it a bit more clarity. If you are uploading these images to Instagram, most of the time it will be fine. Like, not many people are gonna notice the noise and really zoom into the pixels of the image, I guess. So just play around with that until you're happy with the overall image. So lens corrections, I don't really ever use those. The transform image I do use, so usually I'll press level just to see if the image is straight or not, or you can actually do this manually if you don't want to do it automatically. I find that the level one works quite well. In this case, I feel like the level actually kind of makes the image a little bit crooked, so I might just leave it off. If you come up to the top here, when you crop your image, you've also got the angle tool that you can play around with, which will kind of just help you make the image a bit straighter. But in this case, I'm just gonna leave that at 0. I'm pretty happy with that image actually. You can come around here and play around with the color calibration if you really want to. For this image, I'm already happy with how it's looking, but for example, if I come down here, you can change the way that the actual colors appear, so you can play around with how the blues appear and give it a bit more tint. Actually, that looks alright, I might. So yeah, come and play around with the calibration tool if you do want to, I guess, mix up the colors. The thing is, we only had one flare, which was an orange flare, but the beauty of editing is I can make that orange flare look in any color, so it doesn't necessarily mean you need different color flares, because when you get into editing, you can just change the colors yourself by using the color panel or the calibration panel. And just to show you an example of that, so like this was another photo I edited, and you can see like I pretty much changed the mask color to purple when the smoke's all yellow. Usually when I'm editing a photo, I'll run through this process, and once I get to the bottom, I'll go up and see how the image is. If I'm still not happy with it, if there might be some things I need to change, then I'll come here and play around with these. So these tools up here, I guess, really can help you make your photo pop. So this brush tool, I'll show you how to use the adjustment brush tool. Yeah. So I'll click the brush tool. I always go show selected mask overlay, because then that just lets you see what you're working with. You can change the size of your brush here, so maybe 0.9. So I can highlight the mask with the brush tool. Yeah, so once you've done outlining, just click show selected mask overlay again, so it gets rid of the outline, and then you can play around with, so I can drop the exposure, I can increase the exposure, I can even come here and mess around with the color, the tint, the clarity of the mask. The brush tool is also if you want to pick a specific part of the photo and kind of adjust it. In this case, I'm not gonna be using that. And then this one I use a lot. So this is the graduated filter. So the graduated filter I almost use in all my photos. So right over here, I kind of want to make the bottom part of the image a bit more darker. The graduated filter is good if you want to select a large area of the image and just change it all at once. Click this again, show selected mask overlay. The bottom part of the little point here will be the part that you'll be changing most, and the top part it's like a faded effect, so it doesn't look very obvious. It gives you a kind of natural faded look. Bring this up here now. I'm gonna be dropping the exposure, so you can't really see his shoes. I feel like it gives it a more dramatic effect. That's awesome. The one last thing that I wanted to show you guys was here, the radial filter tool. So the radial filter, it's really good if you want to point out your focal point. So over here, what you can do is you can drop the exposure of the image, everything around him besides the radial filter, and then you right click, you duplicate, and then you want to just make that 0 again, and then you want to invert. So now it's going to focus on just the portion that is selected. So I can bring up the exposure, or I can make it a bit more blue, maybe bring up the highlights and the shadows. It just kind of brings more life to the center of the image. See, in this case, the radial filter has dulled out the smoke, so I probably wouldn't use it for this image. I think it looks better without a radial filter. It kind of brings the smoke in focus a bit more. But yeah, I guess those are the main tools I use when I'm editing my photos. If you wanted to crop it for Instagram, then you would go 4:5, so that's how it's gonna look on your Instagram feed. You can change that around however you want. That, I just wanted to quickly go through a tutorial for you guys on how I edit my photos. If you guys would like to see more editing tutorials like this in the future, please comment down below. If you wanted me to edit maybe daytime photos or car photos or maybe nature photos, I'm open to anything, and I would like to start doing more of these tutorials to just give you guys a bit more insight into how I edit my photos. So there will be more of these kind of videos coming soon. If you guys enjoyed this video, maybe consider liking and subscribing. With that all said and done, I will see you in the next one.